How's it going, YouTube? Coming in today with another video, and today, guys, the brand new is going to be Tri-Mera, or better known as Tri-Mera. Shout out to the comment section for the name. I really love this deck, and I really want to talk about why I'm playing it. I've been getting a ton of questions about it, so I wanted to make a video really explaining the thought process behind the deck and exactly why it works together so well. I know a lot of people's concern is, hey, there's a couple of locks that you got to play around, but that's totally fine because it's very easy to play around them. If you haven't already checked out my sponsors or an Imperium Duelist, Dragon Shield, Gem, or Grimoire, definitely go ahead and go down in the description below, check them all out, and without further ado, let's hop right on into the video. The first thing I want to talk about is actually just going to be the list. Usually we say this for the end, but we're going to start with this. So you see that there's a lot of names in this. We're playing a full Chimera package, so we're not cutting down anything. We're playing 3 of everything. And then with the Tri-Brigade engine, it's actually just the standard engine, 2 Keras and 3 of everything else, but we're playing 1 Rescue Cat. So what I think is really important to note here, and one thing that I've already explained a couple times, is that you can't really cut down any of the names. Now, this is something that we tried multiple times. We tried cutting down Kit and Nerval. We tried cutting down like Fractal or Tenki, or just trying to cut down the names so you don't have to play so many. But every single time we felt like we were missing cards, because both these engines really do a lot better when you have the entire engine there. And that's really important. If you play 2 Baphomet and then you draw when you summon one, you no longer can use the Sword Knight and summon one on your opponent's turn. You have to wait for your fusion to go to the graveyard, and then you're able to go ahead and bring it back. But that's not always super optimal, as you want to be up in card advantage as soon as possible. The other really important thing about that too is you do it in the draw phase, so you play around quite a bit, which is really important as well. So it's just something else to consider. Talent is just such an impactful card. I really want to play 3. I can't really find room unless we cut Cat, but Cat's also a really solid follow-up, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. But what I think is really important too is just stressing that you really can't cut down a lot of the numbers, especially Baphomet and even Nerval. Those are cards that just have to be at 3, because it's the same thing with Nerval. If you open one, then use one, and then you have a Fractal in your hand, you really want to be able to get to like a Keras, then you have to be able to have a Nerval in deck to be able to send in Rhoda for the Keras. Because Keras is a huge part of this deck. It's really important because not only is Claw just an insane monster, it's also a beast. And then you also need your normal summon, so being able to just send something and be able to use Keras is going to be one of the most important things that you can do. We're still just going to play 2 of it though. 3 would just be bricky, but 2 is perfectly fine because it's hyper accessible. But talking a bit more about why I play this deck is because it's the same reason that I played the 60 card striker pile at the regional, and that's because you use all these other engines and your opponent is going to have to hand trap you somewhere, right? So if you lead it off in that format with like Ray, and then they like hand trap your Hayate and your Kagari, and then you go main phase 2, activate right, and then do everything else, your opponent already burned 2 hand traps, which is really crazy. And now you can go ahead and use your secondary engine. So this is very similar, where you can start off with your Tri-Brigade combo, and you can go like Keras, pitch Kit, dump Nerval, let's say the like Ash Nerval, you go Kit banish 2, they imperm you, you're like, all right, cool, normal summon Sword Knight, Chimera combo, and then you rip a card too, so now they're down 3 cards. And let's say that you had a copy of Chimera Fusion in your hand, and they Veiler your Kit. Now you can just go, that's adorable. Anyway, Chimera Fusion, and then you can get rid of Kit and a Fiend from your hand, and then summon Beasts, which is really crazy too, because then you get more congruency. The Kit can then just go ahead and summon out like a Fairy Jet or like a double Dragon Lord. You can keep comboing past a lot of hand traps, and then again, you do get that rip in the end phase, so you rip more than just the hand traps they used, which is really crazy. This does open up the window for you to be able to use all your Chimera cards effectively, because Baphomet is a hand trap magnet, but if they're using it on things like Kit or your Keras, then they're already losing. And what's cool is that you can put up an Appaloosa using the Tri-Brigade engine with things like Revel as well, and then you can go ahead and use your Baphomet, because at that point the only card you lose to would be like an Imperm, right? So very, very cool. I really love the concept behind the deck, and being able to use one engine that's very aggressive to another engine that's honestly also very aggressive, but this engine is a bit more defensive, being Chimera, just because you can summon things like the Guardian Chimera, and then you can also use your Sword Knight in the graveyard to negate a monster effect. Then you also have Kotal to negate anything that's targeting. And then also it's really cool that the fusion is allowing you to then go ahead and reborn any of your tri-brigades on your opponent's turn. So one thing that was brought up in stream as well that I did want to mention is that you can go ahead in the end phase reborn things like Rescue Cat, which is already very cool, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Chimera Fusion, being able to fuse away any beast is really cool. We have Kit, Karis, Gazelle, Bearbrum, we have Fairyjet, which is really cool because you already know that the Bearbrum has an effect that does lock you in a Tri-Brigade. But if you go ahead and use Chimera Fusion, and then you get rid of the Bearbrum that way, and so in Beast, you go the effect of your Bearbrum in the graveyard alongside like a Baphomet to reborn the Sword Knight, and then you already have your Revolt on top of a Hand Rip, and then you have so much more advantage. So you can play around a lot of the locks really easily. And then all the main deck monsters just say that you can't use anything else as a link material that isn't a Beast, Beast Warrior, or Wing Beast. Which is totally fine. At that point, we're not linking at all. We're just going to go ahead and fuse, and that's where Baphomet's lock comes in. So after you're done doing tri-combo, once you summon Baphomet, you're only locked into fusions for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine. Again, we don't really care at that point. We're just going to be netting more advantage, which is really cool. But so Baphomet can search a level 4 beast. So not only can you reborn Cat in the end phase, you also can search Cat for follow-up. Because if you are summoning the Baphomet on your turn, adding the Gazelle, adding the Chimera Fusion, excellent. And then when you summon the Baphomet on your opponent's turn and draw phase from the Sword Knight, now you're going to add a Rescue Cat and Chimera Fusion, because at that point you have crazy follow-up in Cat, and then you also get another fusion. So you can add Gazelle if you feel like you need it, but at the same time I'd rather just add more engine follow-up, which is even crazier, because you're at a point in the game where you're getting to more simplified game states. So that just means that Cat just goes way crazier at that point, right? Because you get 2 more monsters to the board, you can do a lot more. It's very cool. But talking more so about just the board presence, watching my opponent put up a Mud Dragon and literally not caring at all because I had a Revolt and Chimera Fusion. Revolt summons Omen. We all already know that Omen is super crazy because it's a non-targeting banish, and then you can just put up the Guardian Chimera as well that is a non-targeting destruction. What's really cool about Revolt too, not only can you get follow-up from Nerval, but you can also summon any number of Beast, Beast Warrior, and or Wing Beast. So you can use cards like Gazelle for this, which is really nice as well. So not only is it very cool that everything is an illusion, a fiend, or a beast, but we also are getting Baphomet the Phantom Beast Dark Ruler. And this card is going to make this even better. This deck is going to get even crazier. And I believe this comes out in AGOV. So 2 monsters with different types that have to be Beast, Fiend, or Illusion. So already totally fine. This card's name becomes Chimera, the flying mythical beast, while on the field or in the graveyard. So already really cool for Sword Knight and Code Rule effects, but it is treated as a Phantom Beast card. You can only use each of the following effects once per turn. If this is fusion summoned, you can send 1 Beast, Fiend, or Illusion from your deck to the graveyard. So there you have it. Just off the first thing that you do, you can send a Beast and a Fiend from your hand or field to the grave, and then dump Kit from deck and get right into your Tri-Brigade engine, which is already really crazy. During your opponent's turn, quick effect, banish this card from your graveyard, target a Beast, Fiend, or Illusion monster that's there and special summon it. So that's already really cool, because there's a couple things that you can do with that. You can also bring back your Chimera if you want to. But one thing that you can do is that if you put an Omen up already, you can go ahead and bring back a banish like Kit or Nerval, and then it will trigger the Omen again, and then you just get the Nerval or Kit as the follow-up to go into the grave, and then go ahead, essentially getting you another card, which is also very cool. This card is going to elevate this deck so much. It's so cool. The other thing that I really like about this too is that D-Shifter obviously is a huge issue because it's D-Shifter, but you don't automatically lose when you see D-Shifter, which is pretty cool. This is going to rely heavier on seeing your Chimera engine, but Kodal and Sword Knight don't have to go to grave for you to be able to use their effects. So you can go Kodal, Sword Knight, and then summon Baphomet and add your Chimera Fusion and Gazelle. At that point, at least you'll have the Chimera Fusion into your Guardian Chimera alongside if you have a hand trap. So you don't auto lose to having Shifter out, but at the same time, it will be a hard match, but you still have options. So that's one thing that I've been finding really helpful in testing. It's been very cool. So kind of just going back to the list here. So the first thing that you'll see with the deck list here, again, is that it's a really heavy monster count, and you'll probably perceive this as a lot of normal summons, but it's really not. A lot of these things are getting pitched out of your hand or fused away. I am playing 2 Guardian Chimera now. I cut the other Chimera fusion. I don't think that's very good, nor do I think that you realistically ever go into it. The other Chimera just comes up so much more, so I think playing 2 is actually just going to be standard. A lot of people were asking me why I play the Lightheart. Lightheart is something that you can banish 1 out of your graveyard for any of your names, which is really important. So if you have like a Karas and you can banish like 1 kit from your graveyard, summon Lightheart and go into Fairy Jet, which is really cool because that gives you another way to like throw a Nerval or like a kit out of your hand, right? So it's also very cool. It comes up quite often. It came up when I was trying to attack for a game with access code, but I needed 1 more pop. So I just like banished 1 and then was able to summon Lightheart and then access code banish Lightheart and pop the other card. Is very cool. In the sideboard, I'm playing Xyz Encore. This card is very important too. I think it's very good right now versus Cash and Pearly. I definitely heavily recommend having those. They're like $10 a piece right now. I don't really think there's a great substitute. You could play Eclipse instead, but I do think Xyz Encore is definitely something that you want in your side deck. I did cut Doom Eagle. It was here. We cut it for Almirage, so I felt like it just came up a lot more. Doom Eagle is cool, but I don't think it's necessarily important. The other thing too is I'm only playing 6 hand traps between Ash and Imperm. You can kind of play with the ratios in the deck and see if you can fit in anything else. I would suggest Mourner. I like Mourner a lot right now. But other than that, I don't really feel like there's anything that I would change at the moment. I feel like the deck's been working really well. We had a 15-0 streak on stream on DB Ladder. We were in the 800 bracket, so it was very cool. A very good time, and I really love playing this deck a lot. I really do hope that everyone enjoyed today's video. If you haven't already checked out the Discord, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, or my Metafy page, definitely go ahead and check it all out down in the description below. I hope that everyone has a wonderful night, and I'll catch you on the next video. Thank you.